Okay, it's time for three things. We do this every week. Three things that are going through my noggin that aren't named Bud Light Lime or anything else, because boy, it was a nice weekend. Number one, Geno Smith, it's his Heisman to lose, because you know, when you're coming from the fringes, and I'm not saying Geno Smith's in a fringe school or a fringe conference, but Geno Smith I don't think is a guy that everybody said that's the guy to beat. When you're coming from outside of that race, you need to have that big game in the first third of the season, and he certainly had it on Saturday. I mean, that was an amazing. His numbers were just stupid. So, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a guy in a Division I BCS game have numbers like that. 8 touchdown passes, 600-something yards passing. So he's got that. It's his to lose. Now, it's easy to then lose it. Texas goes out, shuts him down. And that's the funny thing about the Heisman. Texas shuts him down, which I don't think will happen. But let's say they shut him down. Texas wins that game 28-10. He's out of the race. I mean, he can't come back from that. That's the way it works in the Heisman voting. I'm a Heisman voter. That's not the way I look at it, but it's the way a lot of these clowns do. And what has helped him is obviously Matt Barkley has done nothing the last couple of weeks. There's nobody that's stepped up. There's some guys who had some good numbers, but nothing like what Geno Smith's done. So right now, if you had to vote, you'd have to vote for Geno Smith. I probably would, although I don't take it too seriously until we get to about the middle of October. Number two, the head ball coach might have gone a little too far, and what I'm referring to is Steve Spurrier has been known to feud occasionally with guys. In fact, you know, he and I had a talk about this the other day, but for the most part, he's been great. He's been great to me. I've got no complaints about Steve Spurrier. You know, he had a fight with Larry Guess and finally just shut him out, wouldn't talk to him when Larry Guess was at the Orlando Sentinel. And he's got a fight with Ron Morris up there at the State, who I know as well. Actually, Ron Morris is a good buddy of mine. But when we heard him on the radio say that basically his president and the editor of the paper were working together to work things out so that this wouldn't be a problem anymore, that's when you're going too far. The university president and the head football coach at any school should never have any influence over what a paper writes or what a paper says. Or, you know, look, you judge what Ron Morris says based on what you think, not what the head ball coach thinks. I know you all want to, everybody wants to get along with the teams they're covering. I believe in that. Some people don't. Some people want to be antagonistic. I'm a guy who says, hey, you know, I'm going to call it like I see it. If you stink, I'm going to write that you stink, but there's no reason why we have to hate each other. But unfortunately, I think Steve has gone a little too far if he's actually influenced whether a guy's going to stay employed or whether a guy's going to be demoted or whether they're going to tell him don't write anything bad. That's wrong. That's not what we stand for in journalism, and I hope the state newspaper doesn't get that way. And finally, number three, Gators need to take back the Swamp. Remember when the Swamp was a tough place to play? Hadn't been that way for a while. And I'm not going to blame the crowds for that. I'm blaming Florida football for that. Florida hasn't played well at home. You go back to 2010, and, you know, 3 losses at home under Urban Meyer, who never lost at home. Last time they played LSU at home, we'll never forget that game. That was a fake field goal over the head, bouncing around, unbelievable loss. And it really sent Florida on a downward spiral that year. I think that game had more to do with what happened the next week with Mississippi State than anything else. But 3 losses then. Last year it didn't play well at home. Lost to FSU, as we all know. Lost to Alabama at home. And we're down to Furman early. They've not shown the last 2 years that they're a good home crowd team. And so far this year, the Bowling Green game, certainly people were grousing coming out of that. And then the Kentucky game, I don't think they played great against Kentucky. They didn't have to, and I understand that. But this is a game where they need to play well, and this crowd needs to be in it, and they need to take back the Swamp. The Swamp needs to be a tough place to come again. Right now, I don't think anybody feels that way because so many teams have had success here. But so much of that has to do, look, during 0-10-1 in 1979, the Swamp wasn't hard to play in at all. Of course, it wasn't called the Swamp then. It depends on your players, I know. But the crowd can give you that boost. The crowd can fire you up. And it needs to be alive again. I think it will be on Saturday night. All right, we're going to take a break and come back. Doug Johnson's going to join me when we're back on the Pat Dooley Show. Okay, welcome back to the Pat Dooley Show, and of course my special guest, Doug Johnson, former Florida quarterback and now Melrose Bay skier, I guess, right?
Not skier.
Oh, you're not doing any skiing out there?
Just cruising.
Swimming? Yeah, it's beautiful out there. I wanted to have Doug in. One reason it was because of Jeff Driscoll, who now continues to be impressive for Florida. If you were a quarterback, though, in college and they said, all right, we want you to manage the game, don't turn it over, we're not going to ask you to throw it 20 times, 25 times, 30 times, heck, if you're Geno Smith, 60 times, I mean, how would you like that in college?
I think a lot of it depends on what type of player you are. If you're a gunslinger, a guy that has a big arm that you like to show that off, I think it's very tough.
Right.
If you're a guy that understands his role and understands his limitations as a player, I think you welcome that. I think a lot of it, if you look at when Baltimore won the Super Bowl and Dilfer came in and played,
yeah.
Trent understood what his limitations were, and he understood that he didn't need to take a shot every play. That wasn't their team. But if you look at Driscoll and when I played, we won it offensively. That was what was asked.
Right.
And Jeff's got a good arm too, and it's hard to ask a kid like that, especially a young kid, not to go out there and make some plays when he's used to making plays, because he's a big-time player. So that'll be a difficult task for him, but he is maturing through this year.
Yeah, I know you know the staff very well, and I when you look at this, were they expecting him to do this for them? I mean, they didn't even know who their quarterback was a week before the season.
I think they knew that there was potential with him. I don't think they knew what to expect when the lights came on, because that Alabama game the year before really shell-shocked him.
Yeah.
And they were worried about what that actually did to him as a player. I mean, did it stick in his mind, and was that going to come back when the lights came on? And I think he's been really good in the pressure moments. I think that he's grown and he's gotten better. I think the interception last week was a good thing, because he really hasn't been in a situation where it's been bad, or kind of a bad throw, bad decision where he had to come back from it.
Right.
That was a good thing. That was probably, if you ask the coaches, they were actually happy that happened in a game that really didn't matter, and to see how he bounced back from that, because that's a good coaching point and a learning tool.
Yeah, I think that was really only the second bad decision of the year. The first being at Texas A&M, where he was getting thrown down, and he threw the ball and it bounced off a guy's pads, and who knows what could have happened then. What do you see that when you look at his throwing motion? Because you've seen them all. You've seen Danny from here, and you've seen Noah. I don't know where he was throwing it from, but you've seen all the great quarterbacks of Florida. Tim Tebow. What about this throwing motion for him?
I think he's got a decent throwing motion. I don't think that's going to hinder him at all. Obviously he can spin it. He's got a strong arm. He's got some legs on him that he can move around. I mean, he potentially has the ability to be a good quarterback at Florida. A lot of it's going to depend on his head. A lot of it's going to depend on him being able to break down defenses, because we haven't seen the SEC ball yet.
Right,
I mean,
right.
This is game one of the season. Kentucky was a joke. Texas A&M was not ready to play in the SEC when they played them, but luckily we're not going to play Texas A&M, in week 9, because they're going to be a totally different team. You watch, Texas A&M will be a different team at the end of the year.
Johnny Football's looking pretty good.
Yes.
Right now.
So we're just fortunate to the fact that we've been able to play teams to actually get ready for LSU. This is when the season's going to start, and we'll see what kind of maturity process is going on with Jeff.
Now, obviously LSU this week, and you were in part of some LSU games, one not good, but the LSU rivalry, it's not even a rivalry, I guess. You don't count it as a rivalry game, but I wrote about this week. There's something special about LSU. And whether you're going there or they're coming here, I mean, you think about that run from 06 to 010, those games were amazing.
Yes.
And certainly, maybe it's the way you guys dominated them, other than from, what did Spurrier go, 11-1 against?
Something like
LSU,
that,
yeah.
We had the one, the 97 loss, but I mean, Gator fans always put Georgia ahead of LSU as far as rivals. We always respected, when I was playing, we always respected LSU a whole lot more than we did Georgia. And obviously that's the same now. I mean, LSU has been a powerhouse, and I don't know why they're not looked at as a rival game.
Yeah.
I mean, every year LSU Florida is a huge game. It doesn't really matter, they're in different conferences.
And they play them every year. They played them every year since 1971.
Yeah, and it's a big. I mean, that game is going to decide a lot. I mean, it really is. But I kind of have a thought that I think we're really going to beat LSU, and I think we're going to beat them. Maybe by a couple touchdowns. I really believe that. I think we're going to have some home field advantage. I think that their offense is not going to score against us unless we turn the ball over in our in our territory.
Which is what they've been doing. They've been turning it over. They've had 5 fumbles lost in the last 2 games. I think 8 overall. So, that's what Florida's going to continue doing. What they've been doing. Don't turn the ball over. pick your spots for your big plays, run the ball effectively, and play good defense.
And just eliminate dumb penalties.
Yes, well,
we'll
see about that.
That's always kind of the tough thing, and people are always, fans are wanting to know, well, we have all these penalties. Are we not a disciplined team? A lot of them are silly, but some of them are just guys playing hard, and stuff like that happens. I mean, you could call holding on every play if you wanted to.
I know.
But if we can get away with not a lot of penalties, don't turn the ball over, I think we're going to be in good shape.
All right, so there's a voice of optimism. I haven't made my pick yet. We'll get to it. All right, let's get to the 5 questions, Doug. Number 1, we saw an awful lot of offense this week. It was ridiculous. Do you think this is a trend? Do you think this is where college football is going, or just kind of a fluky Saturday?
I think it's kind of a fluky Saturday. At the end of the day, when legitimate teams face one another, it's going to be legitimate scores. It's going to be realistic scores. The defense is going to be a part of the game, but I think right now you have a lot of games in college football of teams playing other teams that shouldn't even be on the field with them. But when we're talking about SEC games, I think realistically it's going to be defense is going to control the game, and that's how Alabama's won. I mean, let's talk. That's how they won. That's the chemistry for a championship team, is to have a good defense.
And the one SEC game that was high scoring, this 54-80, 48, whatever it was, Georgia, Tennessee. A lot of that was Georgia turning the ball over, down their end, and you do that, anybody can score. But Georgia's defense did look a little suspect, and they're going to blame it on the rustiness of their 2 returning players. But I think that's another reason for optimism for when Florida plays against them. Number 2, is it inevitable that we're looking at an Alabama-Florida State national title game?
I always, obviously my heart's with Florida, and I kind of had a conspiracy theory that I think we're going to beat LSU. I think we're going to split a South Carolina and Georgia game. And I think we beat FSU, and we'll be in the same situation as Alabama was
last year.
I mean, it very well could happen. I mean, if you think about it.
I'll take that right now.
Well, could happen. I think we're capable of beating FSU. I think we're going to beat LSU, and I think we'll split a South Carolina, Georgia, and we could very well be having a week off during the SEC championship game and waiting for a national title. I mean, that stuff could happen. I mean, but I think that I don't see that Alabama FSU scenario playing out. Every year something crazy happens, and so it never works out like we think it's going to work out.
Yeah, and the only reason I say this because Alabama's biggest teams they're facing in the West. Arkansas is going south. Auburn's no good.
Right.
LSU struggling a little bit right now. And then you look at FSU, they've got a 2-game season left. At Virginia Tech and then Florida at home. That's, I think any team would take that.
That's right.
We'll see.
We'll see. It'll be fun.
It'd be curious to see who the Gator fans rooted for. Will they root for the in-state team or the in-conference team? I think I have an idea. Give me one player, Doug, that needs to step up for the Gators in this game against LSU on Saturday.
I think Jordan Reed needs to have a big game because he's a big-time player.
And the potential's there for it.
The potential's there. He needs to play like he's capable of playing. He is a guy that could be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Don't
you think he's making money this year? I mean,
no doubt.
Yeah.
His MO is he needs to concentrate on every play. That's where he really struggles at times, where he kind of takes a play off. Because when you see a guy that has those kind of hands and drop easy balls, that's just lack of concentration.
Right.
But Jordan Reed needs to have a big day. And I've been saying since week 1 with Larry, Jordan and Burton, those are our key weapons, and those are guys that make a young quarterback look very good, and they need to continue to play well.
And that's the key. I mean, when you got a young quarterback, and let's face it, Jeff is starting his 5th ever game as a start, or 4th actually, because he didn't start the opener as a starting quarterback. The guys around him have to play well, and I think that's what hurt John Brantley as much as anything last year. I mean, I don't think the play calling was good. I don't think the offensive line was good, but guys didn't make plays around him. Nobody ever took a 10-yard out like Frankie Hammond did and went to the house.
No, a quarterback is only as good as the guys around him.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, no doubt.
Number 4 on our questions, who's a bigger surprise to you this year, Notre Dame or Miami? The reason I ask this, they obviously play each other. Notre Dame, think people thought was going to be pretty good, but they've been better, especially defensively. In Miami, I had them buried after that Kansas State game, and they've come back and rallied for two nice wins.
I think Miami's definitely the bigger surprise when they took the beating they took, and now because I wrote them off, I'm like, oh, here's typical Miami. That, when are they ever going to get out of what they are and be what they were? I don't know if that'll ever happen. Notre Dame's always expected to play well. They're set up on a stage to the fact of they should play well.
Right.
I mean. The teams they play against, the recruiting, that they have, and they're able to go out and get. They're independent. They're on, television every week. I mean, it's just one of those deals where they should win. Miami, we all kind of wrote off. You wrote off. I think that's definitely a bigger surprise.
Yeah, the thing about Notre Dame is as we've discovered now, Michigan and Michigan State aren't all that. We thought they were. Those wins may have been diminished just a little bit, but if they can win this game against Miami, I mean, they still got some big games ahead of them. USC still out there, Stanford.
Right.
So, I mean, their schedule is tough. It's not backbreaking.
It's not Florida State.
Yeah, and it's not an SEC schedule.
Right.
But it's still pretty tough. So it'll be interesting. And the winner of that game, it's almost like lose or go home.
It is.
But the winner of that game is going to feel pretty good about it. Finally, maybe you can do this, Doug, because I have a hard time. Look, I know Bobby Petrino got in an auto accident with his girlfriend, the 7-footer. I know that they lost him as a coach. I know they've had all kinds of issues. I know but how can you explain? Maybe you can explain Arkansas losing 52-0 to Alabama, but to go to College Station and get embarrassed like that, is there any explanation for this?
I think that team checked out. And in the SEC, everybody has talent. Everybody has a potential of playing well. And I just think that team has checked out, and I don't think they're going to be back this season. I mean, I don't see them mentally being in it. And when that happens, when that happened, I mean, Georgia, every year we played them, they were mentally out of the first quarter.
Yeah.
And they were just as good as we were. Really, talent-wise, they were just as good.
Sure.
But they checked out of the game, and I just see Arkansas. That's what they did. That's what they're doing right now.
Doug and I could sit here for another 4 hours just talking football, but we do have time constraints, so we have to get out of here. I appreciate Doug Johnson for being our guest today. It's time right now to go to the list. All right, welcome back to the Pat Dooley Show, and now it's time for the list. And for today's list, I came up with 5 teams that, in my opinion, are unbeaten and yet under the radar. Now, maybe they're not under your radar. You may be a fan of one of these teams, or maybe you know exactly what's going on with them. But these are 5 that are undefeated right now in a world of college football that's got a lot of undefeateds, but you don't really hear much talk about them. I'll start with number 1 is TCU, which you would think TCU would be getting a lot of attention because people look at them every year as, is this a team that's going to kind of bust into the brackets? Now, they've changed their affiliation and everything, but still, I ask you this question: who has TCU beaten this year? I'm not saying they haven't beaten anybody good. I'm just asking who have they beaten, because I don't know. I haven't paid that much attention to TCU. But they're 4-0, and they've got some tests coming up. Certainly the toughest part of their schedule is still to come. Number 2, I put Mississippi State. Now, we all remember Mississippi State beating Auburn. But other than that, it's been pretty low-key. They beat Troy. They just haven't had a tough schedule. Their whole season's ahead of them, really. They're 5-0, and that's great. They're almost guaranteed a bowl game. And that's good for the SEC, and it's good for Mississippi State, and it's good for Dan Mullen, who was feeling a little heat going into this year because they had a terrible SEC record last year after going to the Gator Bowl the year previous. And I think the shine was coming off a little bit. Now, again, he hasn't done a whole lot this year, but they are 5-0. If you win those games, that's huge. And beating Auburn the way they did is good. Number 3 is Northwestern. Now, there's a lot of Northwestern alumni that are in the media, so they'll tell you about how great Northwestern is. So maybe they're not that far under the radar, sorry. But Northwestern, I remember watching their Syracuse game. It's about it, only a few minutes of that. 5-0, though. Who knows? They could be in the Rose Bowl. In fact, the last time they went to the Rose Bowl, I was there when they played USC. That was kind of cool. It was my only Rose Bowl game so far. And number 4, I put Louisville on here. Now, I know a lot of you were saying, hey, we're paying attention. That's Charlie Strong. It's our man. Well, yeah, but Louisville has played a very soft schedule as well. They're not getting any national attention. One reason is they're in the Big East. And the Big East, you can go 12-0 there. Everybody's going to say, I'd rather put a 3-loss SEC team in the national title game. But Louisville has been under the radar because of who they've beaten. but they've got some nice wins, and people are noticing Teddy Bridgewater. So not too far under the radar, but at 5-0, that's pretty impressive. Number 5, I know this team's under your radar. The University of Texas at San Antonio, UTSA. UTSA is 5-0. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Do you know who their coach is? Larry Coker, the former Miami coach. And he's got them playing some good football. Larry Coker's a good coach. Sometimes you run into situations that don't match up, and he was very good early down in Miami, but then it started to downward spiral. But UTSA, don't forget I told you about that. All right, that's going to do it for the Pat Dooley Show. Big game this week with the Mighty Gators and LSU. We'll be back next week and tell you what we thought about it, and we'll have a great panel. I'm hoping next week, we've had some cancellations here and there, but we're hoping next week we're going to bring the McGriffs in, Lee and Travis, and talk about that game, some other games that are coming up as well, and certainly this great weekend of college football. Until next time, this is Pat Dooley, sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, saying so long from the Sunshine State.